So they brought back another classic from the 80s. But this one has a big difference. And that's puppets! Let's make sense of that.
Take that.
What's up, guys? This is Manuel with Nerds Make Sense, and I'm back on my nonsense. But I'm here with...
I'm Josh.
I'm Ted.
All right, you thought I was done talking about puppets, and I'm not. We're here, and we're talking about it again.
Oh boy.
As most of you know already, because it's been out for a while now, The Dark Crystal has its own prequel series on Netflix. And we're going to take the time today to talk about it, review it, and I'm going to try and do it in a way that doesn't spoil anything.
Because I haven't seen it
Because
yet.
Josh hasn't seen it. I think this is the only time. The other time we've done this is with Aladdin, and then I finally watched Aladdin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that time it was you, not me.
But I just watched Aladdin. I just 4 days ago I watched Aladdin. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So there's a new Dark Crystal show on Netflix. It's called The Age of Resistance. For those of us familiar with the Dark Crystal, it is before the events of the Dark Crystal as we know it. So the Dark Crystal movie takes place in a kind of aftermath of a big war / genocidal act, as we know. And it talks a lot about ages. Like when it talks about periods of time, it talks about an age. I think it's kind of similar to how we do things, right? Isn't what do we call things? Don't we put things in ages based on like what's being produced at the time?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, kind of. You know, there's of course, there's the Dark Ages. There's the Industrial Age.
Yeah, so it's a little similar. So the age that they do reference in the movie,
I think it would be more similar. Your reference point might be more similar to that of the Lord of the Rings.
Probably.
They have the first age, second age, third age.
Yeah. So the way they named them, the one that they named in the movie was the Age of Wonder, and that was long ago, before everything was incredible and everything was perfect as it should be, and there was balance in the world and everything was flourishing. And now it's not that. So in the movie, it tells you like what event has happened that led you to where we are. The crystal cracked. The Skeksis took control. Yada yada yada. Of course, them being the villains in the movie means that things have gone upside down. Whatever. So the show takes place before that. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's about like a few hundred years before. It doesn't give you any specifics, and then when you watch the show, it doesn't. You can't really tell either. So without giving any spoilers, you are treated to a lot of familiar faces. The Skeksis, for one, are all the ones you know are there. Then there are some new ones. The world as you know it from the movie is not how it appears in here. So the first thing is about the state of affairs in this world is that the Skeksis aren't seen as evil. They are actually the lords of this world. They're the lords of the crystal. They are in charge of the crystal. They watch over it. Quotation marks. And they are pretty much they run things. I mean, of course, they're the lords. So the Gelflings are our other main race that we see. Yeah. And there's more Gelflings. From the movie, you remember that the Gelflings all died out. So obviously this is taking place before. We are treated to a whole array of Gelflings. So many Gelflings. There are 7 clans of Gelflings, and they all have like their little quirks. And in the first episode, we get to see, I think, pretty much every one of our protagonist Gelflings. We have like 3 main ones, and they're from the varying clans. There's a royal clan who lives on this like mountain, and everybody up there is like so nicely dressed and royal and elegant and fancy, and that's of course where the royalty of the Gelflings is. They have a matriarchy. That's the word. They have a matriarchy. So each clan has a Madra, which is their like queen, like clan leader, and they're always a woman. And then there's the All Madra, which is the leader of all 7 clans, and this is the royal clan. That's where the All Madra is. There's a army like clan. They're in Stonenwood. That's where one of our main characters is from. His name is Rian. He's one of the royal guard. So almost everybody from that clan, I assume, is a guard type or a warrior type. And another one of our main characters is from Under the Mountain. I forget what they call that clan, but her name is Deet, and she's my favorite. They live underground, and people don't even know that they really exist. They just assume they do. And the ones down there just assume that there are other Gelflings up top, and they don't really care. And they're kind of like the dwarfy types. Like if you ever played Dragon Age, right?
Oh yeah.
They're like that.
Oh, okay.
Because they live underground,
I love Dragon Age.
Yeah, so they remind me like that, but also like a little like a druidy elf type thing.
So actually, it'd probably be more similar to the Dwemer from the Elder Scrolls.
Honestly,
because they were a race of elves that lived underground, but they were known as the dwarves.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like that, but they're not like mechanical in any way. They're very nature-y.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And there's just like an array of them. We only get to see like most of them. And so just sort of like seeing all these people like just out and about. So just everything is just so it's shocking if you were really into the movie, like just knowing how things are going to turn out, and you see where we are now. It's just so weird because things are like on their head, like they're just so courteous to the Skeksis, and the Skeksis are putting on this act too that you don't really see like fall until like the very end of the first episode, where they're like, "Oh yes, my dear," and this and this and that. And then when they talk to one of the main characters, who's a princess, he's like saying like, "Oh, but you're so smart and so pretty," and all this other, just all these niceties coming out of them, and you're like, "No, it's fake," because you're like, "I know they're the villains. They're the villains. I know this." Right? And you do see the Chamberlain. He does show up. And he does his that. Well, he doesn't do it nearly as much in this show. He does it more in the movie, in that hour and 45 minutes, than he does in like the 10 hours of this show, which was incredible. I was a little let down, but it was fine. It was
well. I mean, there's more characters. He's probably got less screen time.
Oh, you'd think.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, he's a pretty like main character. So by the end of the first episode, of course, you finally do understand that yes, the Skeksis are lying. They are evil. You start seeing everything start to unfold and unravel, and start to take the turns towards where the world would go as we know it did. Mm-hmm. But what's most important when talking about the show is, of course, the puppets. And we talked about the movie and how the puppetry was a huge turnoff for a lot of people, and how it was hard to watch. And I'll admit, when my first watchings of the movie, it was really hard for me to watch, and so that's understandable. What I will say with this show is, it is 100% way easier to enter the show than it was the movie. Even if the show is longer, it's whatever. They're done so much better. They because I also watched like the making of, and so like they like I got to see like exactly what they did that made it so much easier to watch. Because like the most noticeable thing is that they do some CGI stuff, but it's all like background and like in addition to the puppetry that's already there. So the CGI work is just like little touches to make things seem more realistic in some places, and then more fantastic in other places. And so it's just little touches, and it's like some of the camera work makes it so you're not so aware that these are just things like hopping up and down when they move, and it just looks a lot better. And so it's a lot easier to watch. It's so much easier to watch. I've already recommended it to a few of my friends, and they've said that they actually do like this, that they're like it's bringing them interest in going back and watching the movie, because it is so much easier to watch. It really is. And then as well, it also brings in some of the more classic fantasy tropes that people are probably more aware of, like the whole clan thing seemed like pretty generic fantasy, and I digged it. I really did, because like their takes on like them was like really interesting, because like you said, it did feel like Skyrim when they're talking about like the races of elves and how different they are. Like it reminded me of that, and also just reminded me of like how each one kind of was a representation of like a generic fantasy race, with also being our fantasy race that we have already.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So if the Skeksis are already behind the scenes, like getting ready to slaughter the Gelflings, does that mean the prophecy has already been prophesied?
That's actually pretty interesting. So it's kind of a spoiler, but it doesn't really spoil anything. Is that on my first watch through of the show, I'm watching it again, but on my first watch through, I did not hear any talk of the prophecy at all.
That you hear like every 5 minutes in the movie.
Yeah, like the prophecy. Yeah, like I don't hear it in the show at all. They do talk about like things having been foretold, but not the prophecy that we know of Skeksis' reign being ended by Gelflings. There's a lot of questions that get brought up during this.
Is the prophecy then a Skeksis creation?
Who the fuck knows? I honestly don't know. Like, and so without going into spoilers, there's a lot of stuff they add in the show where if because you know what happens in the movie, and that's the future as you know it. Yeah. Going into the show, you will not see everything that comes. Like, there are so many twists and turns. There's so many neat additions to it that are just, it just feels so good because there's so much world building, and you didn't think they would be able to, dealing with a property that's this old, where the original creators like dead and gone.
I'm sure Henson had notes.
Probably, definitely. And the coolest thing is too that most of the people who worked on this, it's still the Jim Henson's workshop. It's like people who worked with Henson. Like I think his daughter's involved. I think the little girl, the baby from the Labyrinth, is working on the show.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So I thought that was really interesting.
So now, for people who haven't seen either the movie or the show yet, which would you recommend seeing first?
Honestly, just because it's so much easier to watch, I'd probably say the show, because it's really easier. Like the dark and like in comparison with the movie, the movie does a pretty good job of setting the stage for the show, even though it wasn't anticipated. But it's just so much easier to watch the show. It really is. Even though the show's like big, like drama, hour-long stuff, it's visually so much easier. It's so much easier on the eyes, and I feel like you will get through it easier. And then by the time you're done with the 10-episode long show, you'll be able to watch the movie. The movie won't be as like spectacular as the show is. I'll give you that. But you'll still see like the roots of what we've watched, and then that'll actually give you the same effect as watching the movie and then the show, is that you'll see more of the world building, and then seeing like this huge, like this time skip kind of deal. It's like watching episode 1 of Star Wars and then watching episode 4 of Star Wars. You're like, okay, I know where things are gonna go, but I don't quite know how they get there at this point. So that's kind of where it is, because the show does end with a pseudo cliffhanger, and there's going to be more, because there are still things that need to be explained, and there's still like bits of stuff that we have to explore, like lore wise. And there's just so much that they built. Because they had somebody come in and make a language for the what are they called? The little Cabbage Patch looking guys.
My boy Pup.
Hup. Yeah, Hup. So I forget what his name is.
There's a simple name too.
It is. It's really easy. I feel like an idiot.
They have wash them.
Yeah, it's yeah. So there's the little guys. So the ones in the movie who get drained and then becomes enslaved. I forget what they're called.
Oh.
The girl lives with them.
Yeah, I remember.
The podlings. Oh
Yeah.
God, I'm such an idiot. The podlings. Yeah, so they had a guy come in and make the podling language because they have like a character who's like almost a main character, not quite a main character, named Hup, and he's constantly talking, constantly saying stuff. He speaks in like half podling, half English.
Bro,
You know, and he's like one of the best characters, honestly, because he wants to be a paladin, and paladins are like this like royal guard for the Gelfling, and so they only live on the mountain with royalty, right? And they're called paladins. He wants to be a paladin, and like be one of them, but he wields a spoon instead of a weapon. But this boy with that spoon does some work. Let's be honest. Yeah, and so, oh God, there's just so much to talk about. I'll try. I'm gonna try and cut it short. Keep it simple.
Now, do you think that so from your opinion, the show is really good?
Absolutely, I
And
loved it.
From what I understand, it's actually getting really good reviews by others. Do you think this could potentially? Now, obviously, there's going to be more seasons. At least one more, you would say.
Yeah.
Do you think this could potentially set up a sequel to the original Dark Crystal movie, so we find out the aftermath of that? Or do you think there even needs to be a sequel?
Possibly. I don't think there needs to be a sequel because the thing about that, and we'll talk about that. We have an episode about that kind of subject in general coming up. But in stories like the Dark Crystal, where you are living in the bad side of a chain of events, and then you, having gone through it, reverse that, and you're now everything's cool. It's like it's a really generic like fantasy ending where we're like, oh, we saved everything and everything's like beautiful and wonderful now, just magically, because that's how fantasy works. I do like those endings, but I do also like exploring like, oh, well, maybe things weren't as perfect, and maybe there was a little bit of idealization on everybody's side because things were shitty then, but they weren't like as bad as we just had it with, all the Gelflings being dead, like it wasn't genocide bad, but it was still pretty bad, so I like it's iffy, but I think more of the the world worth exploring is before, which is why I'm happy it was a prequel. I was when I first imagined it, I thought like the ending of this prequel series would lead up, and it would be like a Rogue One type situation where like the end of this would be the beginning of that movie. But it seems that there are still like years and years and years between this and then, and so there's a lot of room to explore. And what I would hope is that it's not necessarily like a prequel series, but like another part of this world maybe, because I feel like there are other parts of this world and there are other things to explore and other like more of the mythos behind things. Maybe even like a further setback prequel, even just because I think it'd be interesting. I really do just enjoy the world building, all the detail they put into it. Because like I said when we talked about the movie, the detail that goes into like physically making the puppets, I feel the same energy with the world building. So the writing had just as much energy as the effects did, and it just feels incredible to watch. And I'll admit, when I first watched it, when I was just watching the first episode, it does give you a recap of things that happened that you wouldn't know from the movie, that you might not have known if you read like the books or the comics or something. Because I'm pretty sure those take place in like different universes or something. I don't know if they're canon. It gives you a recap of things that have happened and kind of sets the stage for the show. And it's all different than things we know already. Even though it gives you some things that we do know, like the Skeksis being villains and all this other stuff. But it kind of changes things up. And so I was a little hesitant because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like all this new stuff that they're bringing, but just like when I accepted it and I took it in, I'm like, yes, all the energy's there, all the creativity's there, all of like the love and the passion is there, and so you can just feel everything, and it's definitely just worth a watch. Like, at least the first episode. If you don't like the first episode, you won't like it, but give the first episode a watch.
All right. Anything else you want to point out?
I honestly don't know what to say. I don't want to spoil anything because I still want you to watch it.
Yeah, so we want to save you from spoilers.
Yeah, so without
Save me from spoilers.
Without any spoilers, all I'd say is just definitely go watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. I don't know, Ted. Do you have anything you want to say about it? Because you also watched it. You said he told me he liked it. So unless he's gonna rag on it right now.
No, I liked it a lot. It was
It's completely destroyed.
The puppetry is like amazing. Like I thought the puppetry in the first in the Dark Crystal movie was good, and this one's like goes beyond it. Because there's like kind of like with running and stuff, you know, and the fight scenes and whatnot and stuff that goes on in there. Mm-hmm. It's just so cool to see. Like sometimes I'm like, how do they do that? I'm like, how do they get that animation?
Yeah, that is a good question, because I mean, you sometimes you can actually see the wires that hold these puppets up. I know they do their best to.
I mean, because
eliminate
and then even sometimes it's not the wires. You can just see like the points of tension, and that like, oh yeah, something's holding this up right there.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
But most of those come, you know, they drop from the bottom, right? They don't go up like a normal puppet would. So how? I mean, especially on the big wide shots.
Yeah, I think some of these are. They do some like camera work to set things up, because there are like they'll have. It reminds me kind of Jurassic Park. They'll have like half puppets. Where like you know what the full thing looks like the big creatures and stuff. Like you know what the full thing looks like. So for some shots they'll use like the top half of the puppet, and other shots they'll use the bottom half of like this puppet, and like they're both being operated in different directions. And so like that's how they set some of these things up, and it's like tricks of the camera for the most part.
I see.
And like they'll have them on top of this thing, and then they'll have like they're operating them through the creature. And while also operating the creature, and there's just a lot of work, and it's oh my god.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, oh my god.
Because there's like scenes where like characters running up the stairs, and it shows you the downward looking of the staircase because it's a spiral, and that puppet character is running up that stairs, and we're like, dude, how the fuck do they do that?
Yeah,
and then there's a scene where someone jumps at someone. And it was like, bro, how they? I mean, other than just throwing the puppet, because it didn't look like that.
It did.
It didn't look
we've
like
seen
that.
what that looks like.
Yeah, we do.
And then it didn't look like that. It looked like a full if the puppet actually had like muscles, and it just went like that and like lunged at her. I was like, dude, how the hell did they do that? And then there's like even a bigger person that's running. I'm like, bro, like how did they get this man to run? I'm just like, dude, this is so crazy.
Oh yeah, there is yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I'm just like, bro,
And
this guy.
It's
to
one
get
of
the realistic motions though.
Yeah, like there's a bigger puppet that they use, because like the Gelfling are like this tall. They're like between 3 and 4 feet tall maybe. They look like children, like when you actually see the puppets. And then like the Skeksis and some of the other things are like people height and bigger. And so like some of the bigger puppets, when you see those in like full motion, you're like,
I'm like, bro, that's a guy in a suit. And then I
It's
look
gotta
at it,
be,
and
but
I'm
it's
looking,
not.
I'm like, it's not a guy in a suit. I was like, wait a minute, it is a guy in a suit. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Because
How do they
if
do
you
that?
like either way, it looks incredibly difficult. If it is a guy in a suit, he's bending in ways he shouldn't be.
Yeah, like.
But if this is a thing on strings,
No, it's talent.
It's moving like it,
Because I watched the making of it as
and
well.
yeah, and that's the point I was making in the video we did about the Dark Crystal movie. It's like some of the movements are so natural, it's off-putting because it's not what we've come accustomed to seeing a puppet move like. We're it's like what Ted said in that movie in the movie video. We're used to seeing the whole Kermit the Frog flopping the arms, running kind of thing. We're not used to seeing puppets act like humans. It's like I said, a little off-putting.
And then another thing I want to mention is that the actors they chose for this, everyone did like an amazing job. Like I didn't complain.
Some of the people I didn't know who they were.
Yeah,
who they
I
were
didn't
playing.
either. I watched the making of, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
it was
that's her.
It was the dude from Kingsman. Is one of the main characters. Taron Egerton. He was in what movie was he in? The about that musician. Was it Rocket Man?
Oh yeah, Rocket
Yeah,
Man.
I was
Where
gonna
he
say
played
that.
Elton John.
Yeah, he's in Rocket Man. And I didn't know that was him. I had no idea, but he did such a great job. And then Simon Pegg, he's the Chamberlain, I think, right?
I think so.
Really?
Simon Pegg is the Chamberlain, and I did not
Really?
freaking know that. I could not hear it. I could not.
He sounded exactly the same.
It doesn't sound exactly the same, but it was like he
did-
put a lot of work into making it not sound like him.
I mean, he does a really good job. I mean, look at what he did in Force Awakens as Unkar Plutt.
I don't
You
even
never
know,
would have known that.
don't even know who that is.
Remember the fat guy who gives everybody the food from bringing in the...
Bro.
That's Simon Pegg.
That's Simon Pegg, dude.
Oh my god.
See what I mean? He's such a great actor. I love
is.
Simon Pegg.
People don't give him credit because he's only in those like the Shaun of the Dead type movies.
Yeah, I
He's
like
great in
him.
those, though.
I know, but like
I
nobody
like
takes it
him.
seriously. But
The voice acting was really great, and like it wasn't like offsetting. Like if you watch the first one, you can kind of tell a little bit, But this one, it's just like, bro, like these puppets are alive when they're talking. This is there's not voice actors.
Yeah.
And then they did a really good job, all of them. And then I know some of them probably got like not recast, obviously, because
I mean, I'm pretty sure some of the people are dead.
yeah, yeah,
So-
I know.
Yeah.
But you get like a better. Because in the old ones, sometimes some of the in the movie.
Oh, Mark Hamill's in it too.
yeah, Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yeah, he's in it, and he does. You could tell it's Mark Hamill, but he still does a great job.
What is it, like a Joker voice?
That's his evil voice. He
Yeah.
only has the one.
Yeah, because I was listening, I was like, "Who is this?" And I just like literally had a brain fart. And I was like, "I don't know." He sounds really familiar. And then Manuel was like, "Did you know he was in this?" I was like, "That's who it was." I don't even have to freaking ask him what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
you'll like when you watch like the first episode, you'll hear him, and you're like, "Oh, there he fucking is."
Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah. Oh my god. There's.
It's so good. Like the Netflix Facebook page or Instagram will like show me Dark Crystal videos, and even though I've seen the whole movie, I'll literally watch the 60 seconds of it, even though I know
You
what's
want me
gonna
to watch
happen.
the scene again?
Yeah, I'll just watch it.
That's some pretty good reviews right
Yeah,
there.
and there's a scene I was trying to recreate it in the intro, but there's a scene where they poke fun at themselves. So there's a scene where they have like all the main characters and then like this like crazy dude, right, who wants to like show them something. He's like, I'm gonna explain to you the story in the best medium possible. Puppets, and he's like going like this, right, and everybody's just like rolling their eyes and like sighing and like, oh fuck, and it was just a fun like neat poke at themselves because that's the attitude towards puppets, but they still put all the work in anyways, and then just the fact that they're able to make fun of themselves like that was just spot on.
Anytime you can sit there and do self-deprecating humor, it's usually pretty good.
Yeah, it was. Oh, fuck! I just really love the show.
Anything else?
I'm gonna go watch it again. No. I think that's it. 'Cause
Anything else you wanted to point out,
without
Ted?
going into spoilers, I don't think I can say anything
That's
else.
what I'm talking
Like I said, I can't really point too much out because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So, but I am gonna watch it. I am gonna give it a shot. I'm currently in the middle of trying to finish up Stranger Things, so we can do a video
Oh,
on
bro, that's what I watched like heck of long ago. We're waiting.
that. Yeah, you're waiting on me for that one. Hey, we waited long enough for you on Aladdin. You can wait on me for a little bit.
about. Everyone knew what Aladdin
I'm
was.
gonna rewatch. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the commitment right now.
I'm sure Ted's already watched season 3 of Stranger Things like
Yeah.
7 times.
I'm gonna say right now. I'm probably gonna do something. More than likely, I'm probably gonna make my own, either like a nerd nonsense or whatever. I want to go like in depth on each episode, and I'll probably do that by myself.
You didn't even mention the game that's coming out.
Oh, the game! Oh, I can't play it. I think it's only on the
So
Switch,
I'll
right?
do a review on that.
Yeah. Ted's gonna let me borrow his Switch so I can play.
Yeah, Ted's not gonna let you
Dark
borrow
Crystal
a
game.
Switch.
Oh, no, he's just gonna take it to work.
Josh lets you borrow his.
And
I
play
will
it-
not
play
let
it
you
at work.
borrow
He works
mine.
longer than me.
I won't let anybody borrow mine. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna rent a Switch. Do they do that at Blockbuster?
Yeah, maybe back in 1986 when the original Dark Crystal was made.
Yeah, let's go.
Silly, they didn't have switches back then.
Oh yeah. So there's that. Oh, there's a book.
They'd probably mistake it for a Game Gear.
Yeah, the Game Gear. Oh my god. There- the freaking what's the fuck? What was it?
Game
The
Sphere?
Virtual Boy.
Oh shit!
Oh my god. Anyway, there's also a book and comics that I'm just starting to get into. I was afraid of diving into other Dark Crystal media until this happened, and now I'm like super into it. So I'm gonna read the book. There's like multiple series of comics. I'm gonna read all those. I'm gonna talk about all of them. I don't care if you guys want to talk about them. I'm gonna talk about them at some point. So look forward to that. Stay tuned to our Twitters and Instagrams for when that's gonna happen.
Yep.
Email us at nerdsmakesense@yahoo.com. They have Twitters. I don't have a Twitter yet.
But he has an Instagram.
Yeah, Nerds Make Sense on Twitter, and Joshua something at Twitter.
Basically, if you can find the Nerds Make Sense Twitter, you can find me and Ted.
Yeah, if you find our pages on,
We don't have that many followers yet.
Yeah, we're all linked together. We're all following each other. I'm sure. Actually, I don't think I'm following you on anything. I don't even think I'm friends with you on Facebook yet.
Yeah, we are. We're just now friends on
Oh,
Facebook.
oh, that's my yeah. That's not even my real Facebook, but yeah.
Jeez, thanks.
Don't worry, he doesn't have me on his real Facebook.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
I'm afit to see his real Facebook.
You should be.
It's nothing, literally.
You don't know because I put everything on private.
It's literally just memes.
Yeah, but
But what's
All
in
it
those
is.
memes?
yeah, yeah. So until then, stay tuned for other stuff. I will be doing more Dark
Oh
Crystal
wait,
stuff.
you forgot to mention.
What if you get to
Oh,
Dude,
boy.
freaking speaking of Jim Henson, I was telling Manuel once the Dark Crystal came out, because I did a Nerd Nonsense on the Disney Plus stuff, and they said that there was going to be a they announced that there was going to be a Muppets new series, and as soon as Dark Crystal came out, it got canned.
Ouch.
And no reason, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, they probably said, all right, let's just invest in everything in Dark Crystal now.
Yeah, it's Disney. Honestly,
Wait, doesn't Disney own Jim Henson Workshop?
no, they own only the Muppets and I think Sesame Street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they'll own it eventually.
They funded Jim Henson, but they didn't buy him.
That's probably the, like,
They'll buy him eventually.
Yeah, they probably will now. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
they
but
probably
that's
will
what
now.
Yeah.
They got the money to fund this stuff, but like, the thing that scares me is like Disney has the money, but they don't have the drive for art.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck, but the money, but they could make like
Imagine what the money could
eight
do
more seasons. I'm like,
in a movie.
and another
More seasons,
and like
a
a whole
movie,
trilogy of movies,
a remake.
a remaster, like port the game
Trading
to
card
PS4
games.
after they buy Sony, just everything.
Trading card game.
Oh god.
Pogs.
Oh my god.
Like, you just picture the crossovers in Marvel.
Bro, we're gonna see it in like freaking.
Oh, I think we need to end this.
Yeah, listen.
Thanos, they stopped me. I fought for my life. Bro, I did that at work. Emmanuel like, stop.
Oh my
Love that
god.
guy.
All right.
Yep.
Well, you heard the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Facebook. Oh, well, I mean, we don't have collectively we don't have a Facebook, but individually we do.
Yep.
But and then of course the email. We're always waiting for the first one.
I think I'm waiting for the hate mails. When I'm waiting for. Honestly, I'm waiting for the haters because that's when you know you got it, dude. When you get haters, that's when you thrive.
That's when we're gonna have to stop giving out our contact information.
No, I'm gonna keep giving it. I'm gonna give them like my personal email.
Interact with them.
They're like, let's go.
Oh, you know.
They're like, wow, you suck. I'm like, yeah, and what else you gotta say? I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm like, all right, cool.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to join us in the next one. Until then, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.